Hey patrons, we're back at you with another episode of the podcast coming off of PPW321. New tag champs were crowned and we were supposed to have a new #1 contender, but the triple threat match broke down thanks to a spear from Matt Vine to the referee unintentionally, after which Vine...
And I'm going to say this too, more on that later. So, you know, I'm not being a prick or trying to cock block. So now we got this weekly program that we're trying to do. We put out the first episode again. Like I said, bear with us. Please don't nitpick about production value, blah, blah, blah. We're doing our best. But what our thing is actually showcasing the wrestling, which is a very rare thing today. So the first 10 minutes of the podcast today, we're also going to put on what we're calling Premier Pro Wrestling, or PPW Presents Challenge Pro Wrestling. Reason is, again, I'm going to say it like I said in the first episode, pro wrestling and anything pro wrestling is and always has been an infomercial, no matter what anyone tells you. But said infomercial is supposed to be so entertaining you don't know you're getting hit with one. Back in the day, it was for selling tickets. Then it switched to pay-per-views and merchandise. So now you can check for yourselves. That's the #1 revenue stream, you know, is merchandise. You know what I mean? Pay-per-view and subscription for WWE. We do weekly tapings, and I'm trying to think here. Right now, you can get those matches, the one you were just speaking of, going to Pivot Share, right?
On Pivot Share, yeah.
You were describing one. What you described one, right?
Yeah, the triple threat for the #1 contendership.
Cool, which was a good-ass match. Mm-hmm. Go to Pivot Share and check it out. Now, this podcast that we're doing right now is, again, I think you're doing good with what the fuck you have, Justin, with the production value. I mean, it's all you with the producing part and my brain and big mouth, you know, and your eloquence, so to say, and charm, so to speak. So go to, not Pivot Share, Patreon. Where you can get the entire podcast every week. And I've been told by a lot of the people that subscribe to us on Patreon that the podcast alone is $5. Is worth more than $5. I'm sorry. And then again, you know, Justin, if you could help me quote, pitch, unquote, what else do we offer on Patreon?
On Patreon, we've also got our Friday night studio tapings that we do once a month, on top of our every Saturday night. And at $3, you get a select number of those matches. Oh, and before I go on, we also have some of our concept matches that are exclusive to Patreon.
Yes, thank you.
Our Iron Man matches, particularly our King of the Iron Man matches, are Patreon exclusive, as well as our Olympiad freestyle matches, and I also believe the Challenge Pro Championship.
So we should do this quickly. Describe Iron Man matches. Yes, Iron Man matches have been done, but they've become extremely unpopular because the talent, the caliber of the talent today can't do it. I don't care what company they work for, especially today with no ring time because of Corona, which we didn't shut down. We taped. Mm-hmm. So it's a singles match, and the way the first ones were, the singles match was... you know, the rules are basically this, you know, the one that gets most falls at 30 minutes is the winner, you know. That's grueling, and by today's standards, that's extremely special. Our current King of the Iron Man is Tim Castle, right?
Yeah.
And now what we're doing is spawning that into, which has never been done, tag team iron matches. We're going to keep it separate from the tag team titles, which will be even cooler. And again, like Justin said, those things are available on Patreon. What was the other thing? Challenge Pro Cup.
The Challenge Pro Cup, which is our triple threat championship. That can be won by way of pinfall, submission, or by throwing an opponent over the top rope. Yeah. And that opponent, being triple threat, doesn't have to necessarily be the champion.
And one of these weeks, we'll go ahead and offer one of those up that we've done on Patreon and post on the Challenge Pro show, which will be cool too.
Yeah, so you guys can see that. So, a lot of different things in the works.
What was the third one?
The Olympiad freestyle.
Yeah, this is a points match, which is done in a whole different light than anybody's done. even Ring of Honor, and time just flies during that match. I'm just like, wow, I wish they had a longer time limit. You too, or no?
I sometimes wish they do.
Yeah.
15 minutes though, with what I've seen, I mean, 15 minutes, so much can happen. I mean, who was it? What was the last one we had? It was Vine.
It had to be Vine because he defended.
Yeah,
Vine
it was Vine and
Olympian.
Charlie Hustle.
Oh my God!
In 15 minutes, I think the score ended up being 14-11.
Now I like this because maybe Charlie Hustle, he's green, right? He's very green. He's new in the industry. He's outweighed by a shitload, but he could actually beat Vine on points when you think about it with quickness. And like you just said, it was really compelling shit. And if you want to see it and you like the sound of it, go subscribe to Patreon. Don't be afraid of Patreon. Trust me, you will not be disappointed, and you can ask any of our patrons. They'll tell you the same, because I've never gotten any bad feedback from anybody on that of you.
Neither have I.
You know. Now, let's get to this, and then I'm not trying to, again, F with you, because then we can, when we do this, we're not ripping you off, patrons. We're just adding the content to it so we can make it shareable via the program that we're intending on doing every week, Challenge Pro, presented by PPW. So this is the kind of content that you can't get anywhere else. I am a grizzled veteran. You know, when I say grizzled, I've seen the industry in so many ways that people today just haven't. You know, when I first started training guys as the North American Wrestling Federation, me, Randy Ritchie, Rock and Randy, World Wrestling Entertainment, Jerry Fox, I realized that in the mainstream, I didn't mean anything. So I was looking for hooks to be able to train people. And then what I thought of was my integrity and the friends that I had in the industry. And one of those friends was Jerry Jarrett. Now, those young people that don't know, I think you will like to know, because I'm starting to see people clamor for things like Mike Tenay's podcast. You guys want to hear the history of wrestling. Well, we're spawning the history of wrestling into a whole nother concept that I don't want to weigh you down with. But the bottom line is this: I cut my teeth in the Memphis, Tennessee territory. You know, today everybody's worried about the name of the company, and it's so funny because it's had so many names. But at the time, before I went there, we just called it Memphis. You know, I was part of the last time crew that worked 8 times a week in Memphis, Tennessee, with one Sunday off every 6 weeks. That was it. And the reason for that was well, of course, the revenue stream. But as I was telling you, one of our regular towns was Evansville, Indiana on Wednesday night. Evansville, Indiana was a beat-up building, and I think it's still standing, and some people try to run it. But it justified the means. Evansville, Indiana, in the Memphis territory, which was then the USWA, was just another night to break even, to pay the boys and pay for the building to keep up our timing. And you just have no idea, and nobody in the industry today, including World Wrestling Entertainment guys, will ever know what that's like to wrestle 8 times a week. You wrestled 7 days a week. Saturdays were twice, because you had to be in Memphis, Tennessee, doing live television on the NBC affiliate right after the Smurfs at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. And then we either shot to Jonesboro, Arkansas once a month, and the rest of the time we start in Nashville and drive 240 to Memphis, have to leave at 5 in the morning, do live TV, and drive back to work in Nashville that night. You know, what a grueling schedule. But everybody who's ever been anybody in the industry has gone through Memphis, Tennessee. Me and Matt Vine were talking about this the other day. But anyway, Jerry Jarrett, legendary promoter and part owner of the company. Most of you are too young to know or remember, but you can Google it, and I don't think it's buried, but it's not as easy to find as it was back in the day. World Wrestling Federation got into a shitload of trouble over drug scandal, steroid scandal, sex scandals. At the time, your shows like Phil Donahue and things of that nature were fucking huge. Everybody watched it, you know. and somebody got a boner for the whole situation as far as wrestling went after WWE. Vince actually thought at one point, or in case of, his plan B, if he went to jail for a couple of years, was to have Jerry Jarrett run his territory. You know? So, Jerry is the most legendary promoter in the industry / owner. He ran Monday through Monday for almost 30 years, you know, in that Mid-South area, you know. What Jerry said when I went to him to endorse me was, Randy Ritchie has been worked for me full-time off and on for 5 years. He's prolific in ring skills, has an outstanding understanding of wrestling as a business. Anything he tells you, he will deliver on, and someday he will be a major player in the industry, you know. And that was pretty fucking cool. So to today's wrestling fan, to maybe even the generation before you, that didn't mean a lot, but you've got to understand what kind of power that wrestling company had to run and sell out. Their biggest night of the week was Monday night at the Mid-South Coliseum. Can you believe that?
That's insane when you consider the competition. And then running on a weeknight, selling out on a weeknight, especially a Monday night when people go back to work and they're wiped out, they're exhausted.
But those adults, children, and all races, and I was talking to somebody the other day, and we'll get more into that when I get more information on it. That was the one place at the time, and we're talking about probably, so it had to have started in the 60s or early 70s, probably 60s, right? 60s, it had to have. Memphis at the Mid-South during wrestling was the one place black and white got along. You never saw no fights in the crowd. Everybody was into the wrestling, and it was pretty fucking cool. And I never thought about that until now. I'm 55 years old. I wrestled in that building. That's the building where the pile driver heard "Round the World" by Jerry Lawler on Andy Kaufman. And I know all ages know that story, you know. So why don't we go ahead and we'll cut this now. But this is a sample of what you can hear on our podcast, subscribing to Patreon. If you're watching on the Challenge Pro, if you're watching Challenge Pro, man, this is the kind of stuff that you can get on Patreon.
Yeah,
okay?
We thank you guys who are listening to this on Challenge Pro, but we're going to throw it back to our Patreon patrons now. So remember, if you want to hear this podcast in its entirety, sign up with us on Patreon. It's just $1 a month to get every podcast, and we do these things every week.
Yep, and then $3 for select matches of our unique concepts, and then $5 for everything. You know,
and everything includes all of our concept matches and our once-a-month Friday night tapings in their entirety.
Yep, and for you guys that are watching just for Challenge Pro on YouTube, enjoy the matches, because that's what this thing, Premier Pro Wrestling, is about.
And you know what? We don't exist without your guys' support, so if you like what you watch here on Challenge Pro, share it. Share it around the web. Share it on your Facebook. Share a link to your Insta. However you guys share information. I mean, I'm 34 years old. I'm already having trouble keeping up with all the different ways.
I can't believe it.
But, you know, share Challenge Pro. If you guys enjoy it, share it with all your friends who enjoy quality pro wrestling and sports entertainment.
Yep. So signing out, do you need a second of silence so you can cut or do whatever for patrons now?
No.
Okay. So now Patreon. Justin, would you please go over and recap where we are, what you plan to do in the beginning before I cut you off?
Oh, no problem. So we're coming off of PPW321. I was talking about the number one contenders match. It was a triple threat match. DeMarcio, Destroyer, Anestra, and Vine. All three guys had legitimate claims to a world title shot.
Yeah.
Only one would be left standing, but
I don't think Vine actually had a legitimate claim. He had a claim, but if you define the word legitimate, I don't think that it would. He would his in his mind it was legitimate, but not really. You know what I'm saying?
You know, point taken. But anyway.
But hey, that's how
that's
how that selfish prick rolls.
Yeah. Well, his claim could be that he's the only 5-time champion in company history. But
still, you got to earn it, man. I mean, it's based on wins and losses and success in the middle of that ring in your singles competition. You know what I mean? Did he best DeMarcio in the best of 7? Yeah, but he lost 3 of those matches, man. DeMarcio, on a fluke the week before, pinned the champ in the middle of the ring. Inestra won the Challenge Pro, and I think he wrestled Armageddon.
Armageddon.
Sorry, man. Sorry, listeners. I think he beat 6 guys. So he earned that spot. What did Vine do other than interfere in a match because he was pissed off that a green kid like Destroya beat him 3 times in the best of 7, and he had to cheat to beat him for the 4th,
Well, maybe it was because he won the best of 7 series, so he felt like Destroyer shouldn't have an opportunity. But you said it yourself, pinned Jose in non-title action.
That's legitimate. Beating 6 guys in the Armageddon Gauntlet, that's legitimate. Matt Vine does what Matt Vine does, and that's kind of sneak slip by hook or by crook his way in there to suffice his ego. He thinks he's entitled. But anyway, go ahead, sir.
Oh, no problem. Then we also had the tag title rematch. Chase and Sem winning as former champions against the new champs, Ventura and Charlie Hustle.
Just barely. And again, these are available on Pivot Share, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So that being said, just barely, because you got to see there was some confusion, and they just barely regained the titles.
Yep. Chase and Sem, once again, your tag champs after Charlie and Ventura held those belts for a week, which they earned. That wasn't a fluke victory when they won the titles. They earned it.
They worked their ass off, as they did when they lost the titles,
Yep.
Just barely again.
Yeah. So those Ventura and Charlie Hustle, they couldn't make Lightning strike 3 times. Because remember, the reason they got a title shot in the first place was because they beat Chase and Sem in non-title. Then they won the titles from them, but 3rd time wasn't the charm.
Well, only because Gosling won't be here this Saturday night. They're going to have to, not this Saturday night, but next Saturday night, the Saturday after this Saturday, which is Halloween. The week after that would be November 6th.
7th, I think.
7th, whatever. Yeah, 7th. Sorry. They're going to have to give those kids a rematch just like the kids gave them one.
Yep.
So that'll be cool to see the rematch in 2 weeks.
Yep. And then we had a really solid undercard, which you guys can watch on the Challenge Pro program on YouTube.
Yes, I really got off watching all of it, but in particular, I really liked Sem and Chad.
Yeah, Sem and Chad was great. You know what else was great was Vine and Xander.
F yeah.
Oh, Xander, that guy's going places.
He's a bull.
He is.
So, on tap this week. What the hell do we have going on again?
This week we've got. Oh, sure. Ask me that.
Tim
we're
Castle
both having a brain fart.
Versus
Sensei. We're going to have Tim and Sem
in an
King of the Iron Man
match, which will be awesome.
Now, is that going to be King of the Iron Man, or is that going to be just a non-title Iron Man?
No, he's got to defend it. He hasn't defended it in a while.
All right.
Sem's got the W's, to challenge him for it,
So then that'll be available to you guys here on Patreon.
Pardon me.
Because that's one of our Patreon exclusive concept matches.
Yeah. Which that'll be great. And then we got the tag team match.
Yep. Which spawned from the aftermath of the #1 contenders triple threat.
Yeah.
Vine inadvertently speared the referee, which caused the match to be thrown out. But since they had nothing left to lose with the match thrown out, Vine and Inestra decided they were going to put a beating on D.
With no referee to stop them.
No referee to stop them. But that's when
Jose rules, yeah.
That's when Jose, who was not competing.
Yeah, he wasn't even on the card that night. He showed up to, maybe he showed up to watch D's back. Who knows,
Or see who his next contender was going to be.
Or both.
Yeah. But he had D's back. He came to the ring. He evened the odds, and that's going to lead us to Saturday, where main event's going to be a tag match. It's going to be D and Jose against Vine and Inestra.
Yeah, which I'm looking forward to. Now, we're going to put together one hell of a solid undercard. Just haven't done it yet. Mm-hmm.
What about that? What about the tag Iron Man from this last Saturday? Inestra and Poncho
Son
against
of a bitch. I love the concept.
Against Eddie and who was he in there with?
Eddie and Willie.
Willie, yeah. Slick Willie.
That was friggin' cool.
That was really cool. Eddie Cruz, man, he what was the was it Casio that used to have that slogan, takes a licking and keeps on ticking?
I think that was Timex.
Timex?
I don't even think you were born yet.
I may not have been.
But yes, that was Timex. It takes a licking and keeps on ticking, which is bullshit. They ran like shit, but everybody could afford a Timex, you know, even me. You know the best watch I ever had? I wish I had it still, it'd be worth so much. My grandfather worked at the Hams Brewery for 40 years, and they actually used to have a Hams Bear watch. I wish I would have kept it.
Best watch I ever had, and probably the reason I was thinking of Casio is because it was a Casio.
Oh, those are worse than Timex.
But 1993, my dad bought a Casio digital watch.
Yeah, when they first came out.
That sucker is still ticking.
You're kidding.
Well,
he must have bought the top of the line Casio.
It wasn't. I think he got it at Walmart.
That is surprising as all hell.
I mean, obviously you got to change the battery out of it, but I mean that thing.
No, yeah.
It still keeps time pretty well. It doesn't lose or gain time like crazy.
Well, maybe I'm thinking of the Casio calculator because that was a real piece of shit.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember the Casio calculators.
Oh,
those things sucked.
Yeah, but you could afford them. They were affordable. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the. You know what, man? You're touching upon what they call the disposable society, where nobody fixed anything. It was so cheap, you just threw it out when it took a shit. You know.
Yeah. And also planned obsolescence has gone way, way up where things are designed to take a shit on you, so you have to buy a new one.
Yeah, like my toaster.
Oh, God.
I bought a toaster less than a year and a half ago. Gonzo. Gianna's ripping. Dad, I don't want to eat these microwave-ass waffles. But I keep forgetting to stop for a toaster. All right, so back to wrestling. You don't give a rat's ass about what me and Gianna eat. So, yes, I'm looking forward to this Saturday night. I'm looking forward to some undercard matches that we're going to put together for the Challenge Pro Show, too.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know what? I think Saturday is going to surprise us a little bit because even with the fear of Corona and everything, I mean, people aren't going to be having Halloween parties or doing any of that crazy shit.
Yeah, I'd hate to be somebody who answers the phone in these small towns and villages, which are already horribly understaffed, because is there going to be Halloween, baby? Is Halloween legal this year? You know, I don't know if it is or isn't. I ain't paying attention, you know.
I don't know. I know that McHenry County somehow is avoiding these increased restrictions, which basically means some of the regions are walking backwards into phase 2 and phase 3 or phase whatever the fuck Pritzker decided to put out there in his unconstitutional orders.
Phase my nuts.
But somehow McHenry's managed to survive, and McHenry's been staying open. I mean, we're kind of...
I didn't know that.
Our numbers are going up. But,
he was threatening last week, you know?
Yeah. I don't think... You know what? All you have to do is go on social media. More and more people are saying this asshole doesn't have the power that he thinks he has. I mean, he's already won how many lawsuits about it?
Oh, my God.
Or, I mean, lost how many lawsuits about it?
Yeah, there was one that was awarded yesterday to a restaurant out in Geneva, which I was glad to hear. And then a neighboring business in Geneva said, we're not going to go to court, but we're going to publicly defy the order, and if he wants to come after us, we'll just copy whatever that restaurant did. So, you know, it's catching on. At the end of the day, you don't have to go under because some entitled fat kid says so. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
So back to wrestling, back to content. What I'd like to talk about is Memphis, man, and my experience in Memphis. You know, and
I love Memphis stories. And
try to get across to the fan. And when I close my eyes, I'm thinking of Ian Solak to get your age group to realize what an awesome opportunity that was and why I did what I did to get there, you know. So I was 155 pounds until I was 22 years old, too small for this industry, you know. My grandfather, for whatever reason, he thought I was smart, really smart. He thought I was really intelligent. And he thought, and I don't remember this, but him and my grandmother described how school came very easily to me without trying. I don't remember that. You know what I mean? But if they say so, okay. They believed it, you know. My grandfather told me, and it really hurt, like I'd had this fight back tears over it that I would never be big enough to be a professional athlete, specifically a wrestler, that I just didn't have the genetics, which I didn't even understand what that meant at the time, you know. So that's what I kept saying, and he kept saying, hit the books, hit the books, hit the books, you know. Grandpa died young. I fell into the throes of addiction real hard, and, you know, I think my brain was probably the first thing to fry, you know, but I just had this determination I was going to do it no matter goddamn what. It was my dream. I was going to make it happen, you know. So I did everything I could to try to gain weight, and I couldn't. So then I figured, when I was 22, I'm not getting any younger. I better get off my ass and figure this wrestling thing out. And at the time, there's no goddamn way a 155-pounder is going to wrestle professionally. There's no effing way it's going to happen. You know, in 1988, I guess that would be right.
Yep.
So, 88, I started to just eat like a slob, you know, and I'd eat my biggest meal the day before bed. The thing is, they didn't teach us, and you guys can ask your parents or your grandparents, they didn't teach us shit about working out. The fucking focus was on curls and goddamn bench, Justin. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about reps, and it wasn't about quality muscle. They set us up only because they didn't know to hurt ourselves. Go heavy or go home. You know what I mean? I could always just naturally bench my weight, and this isn't a dig on anybody. I'm just going to go ahead and use the term because I always have, and I don't mean anything by it. I've always had a superhuman retard strength spawned from anger. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Getting my ass whooped as far back as I could remember by my folks and stuff, and being told, loser, piece of shit, you'll never amount to anything. You're going to be in an institution before you're 18. What's an institution? You know what I mean? So I had this no-quit attitude, and that's what kind of kept me going, that and my anger. I thought anger was confidence because adrenaline felt good. You know, it's the only time I didn't feel like a piece of shit. So, you know, they start teaching us in 7th grade, it was running. But again, they didn't teach us anything about running. The coaching was, go ahead and run. You know what I mean? Junior high wrestling was no weights, just like bear crawls and bullshit like that, you know. They never taught us anything, you know, because I guess they didn't know what they know now, you know. So that's what we would do, was just every day train biceps and curls. Well, what the hell's going to happen, Justin?
You're going to get big biceps, but everything else is going to go to shit.
But not even. See, what happens is when you overtrain, it stops fucking growing too, you know, and that's when you start getting hurt. You know, injury prone. So I start learning about squats, etc., and working out, but it was still the same kind of shit. It was new. You know what I mean? I don't think I happened upon Arnold's, because nobody could afford the fucking thing, Arnold's Bodybuilding Encyclopedia, which is a good book too, a great read with some great exercises in it. But they've even revamped all that, because, you know, Arnold's regime, Superstar Billy Graham's regime, which was, you know, really the king of the bodies in pro wrestling, had to alter their workouts because they started getting hurt and shit. Yep. You know what I mean? So, when I began to squat and do the superhuman retard strength, the last thing you thought about when you ran or did any cardio or played football was how to breathe, you know? And when I applied my superhuman retard strength to get my squat going, I was squatting way heavier than I should have, and I blew an O-ring. No, I didn't really blow an O-ring. I got my first umbilical hernia, you know? And that's what happens. You hold your breath when you're coming up with that weight, and you know, it blows a hole in your muscle lining. And when happens there is fat gets caught in there, possibly organs, i.e. intestines, you know. So I had a strangled hernia, and during that time I couldn't lift weights for 6 weeks, you know. Things weren't as quick then. I think that even then, they were just starting on this day surgery shit, you know. You'd even spend the night in a hospital for a hernia, you know what I mean, or more, you know. So I blew up to 240 pounds from 155 within a year. No fucking way is that going to be quality weight. You know what I mean? I look like Elvis before he died, dude. Bloated, like Meatloaf when he was fat. You know what I mean? But I'm 240 pounds, Mom, you know.
Yep.
Then during that 240, a great photographer took a picture of me, and I got exact gear from K&H, which at the time there was only BA Boots and K&H, Carl Hildebrand wrestling wear. That was it. Everybody in the industry bought their gear from them, you know. So I got exactly Brett's shit, because I was similar to Brett, but a bigger gut. And Brett kind of had a gut at the time when he was Heart Foundation. But you put that thing on and it sucked it in like a sausage casing. And it made everything go up. Made me look like Mighty Mouse naturally. You know what I mean?
Push-up bra for your gut.
Basically, yeah, you look like a monster, you know? So in this picture, I legit weighed 240, but Pat Tanaka told me, send it to Memphis and tell him that you weigh 260, you know? And then I got the hernia, and I didn't know, unbeknownst to me, I dropped from 240, and I couldn't lift weights for 6 weeks. I finally learned how to swim for exercise, you know what I mean? And my ass shot to probably 197 from 240 in 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Because I became compulsive. And if I was doing it right or not, I was overdoing it, I'm sure. You can't really overdo swimming. So that really, man, I'm lucky that I did what I did. And I'm now looking back, that first hernia was probably the best thing that happened to me, because I was so fat. My titties were like tube socks. They shouldn't have tightened up like that, but being 22 and compulsive and crazy, they did. And so did my torso. No stretch marks, no loose skin. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, in a month. I'm telling you the truth. That's amazing. It never even occurred to me. But that's when I get the call to go to Memphis. I'm like, huh, you know what I mean? So I started tanning, and I was semi-cut up now. I maintained a lot of my upper body size, which was cool, but I walked in the door weighing 60, 50 pounds and change less than they thought I did. You know? And I'll be goddamned if I had to face the guy that booked me, Bill Dundee. I was booked for Monday night Memphis, Tuesday night Louisville, Wednesday night Evansville, Indiana, like I was talking about earlier. And that was the tryout, and if it was worth the shit, they were going to keep me, you know? So I walk in that locker room, and they're like, who the fuck are you? You know? Bill Dundee said that. And how you doing? I'm Randy. I'm working tonight. What? You know? Motherfucker goes into his bag, and he pulls out my resume and my picture, and he goes, be honest, who the fuck is that in the picture? Is that your big brother? You know what I mean? So I'm like, shit, man, I got to do something quick, you know? So I'm green as fuck. Can you work heel? Sure I can. I never worked heel a day of my life, you know? And I'm terrified, you know what I mean? But I can't let them know that. And I'm terrified because I'm already off to a really bad start. You know? You just didn't do that, Memphis. Like I said, this was the last place to work every night of the week. Learn the craft, hone the craft, make a living in pro wrestling, you know? So I'm like, fuck, man. That's when I first learned politics, you know? I had talked to a couple of guys that had been in Memphis, that dabbled in Memphis from the north, that told me to go in there and just take. You know what I mean? But these guys, I wasn't sure if they were ribbing me or if they really wanted me to. So I just said, fuck it. I took a chance, and I grabbed Bill, boom, took him over, did another transition, and he said, fuck, mate, you could work, you know? So fast forward, I don't know how many years, I finally saw Bill again at a show in, I don't know, I want to say it might have been NWA 50th or something in Nashville. Anyway, oh no, it was the anniversary show in Memphis at the Mid-South before they tore it down. And Bill was telling everybody that I brought with the students, he's like, you know, this fucking guy walks in, tells them the story, and, you know, you got to hear Bill. He's got this heavy-ass, not New Zealand, Australian accent, talks real fast, and it's also twisted with some Southern twang because he lived in the Mid-South for 40 years probably, maybe more now, you know.
So Bill was Australian? I always thought he was English.
No, he's Australian.
Huh.
You could think that because of the Sir William shit at WCW.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I
Bill,
have some bad associations.
let me finish this story and then we'll talk about, don't let me forget about this because sometimes I need to be reined in, as you know. Pardon me. Bill booked for WCW, and we'll get to that later. But he was just laughing like hell, and he goes, that guy had balls. And we were all sitting in the booking meeting, and this is fucking Lawler, who did not like me then. This is Bill Dundee. This is Dutch Mantel, or what the fuck do they call him?
Zeb Coulter.
Zeb Coulter. And a bunch of fucking stiffs, man, and Jerry Jarrett, you know? And they go, what the fuck do we do with a guy like that? He's got balls. We better find a use for him. You know? So I ended up staying 9 months my first time down. You know, turn that 3-day tryout into that, you know? Yeah. So, Bill, you probably thought that because of the Sir William.
Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's just the stories that... Maybe it's just the stories that you told me where he called you, you know, mate, and which I know is Australian, New Zealand, England.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just between the mate and knowing that he was Sir William that made me think he was English.
Yeah, and plus he is the one. There would never have been a what's that motherfucker's name? William Regal, if it hadn't been for Bill Dundee. Bill Dundee had the book for WCW, man, and that was his pet project. Was William Regal. He liked him, he liked the style, he liked the size, and he literally took that upon himself to help hone him and make his English catch as can make sense. You know what I'm saying? And you can watch some of that early stuff where Bill was actually managing him, and when William Regal would get into trouble, he might have been Steve Regal at the time, I don't remember, he would actually even go over there and get direction from Bill, who was booking and managing him at the time. Bill Dundee is another unsung hero, a fucking genius as far as the goddamn industry goes. You know, he's responsible for a lot of people getting over. You know what I mean? And you know, Regal's been a force with NXT, which means, you know, 2/3 of the talent that you guys see today, NXT, WWE, Raw, or SmackDown. Sorry, I'm WCW. Isn't that funny? Dundee's thumbprints on him, because Bill's thumbprints on him. You know what I mean? So that's how it works. You know, 6'4" to 3. You know, Bill drew a lot of money. He was a small fucking guy. I mean, Bill is probably 5'7", dude. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
With his boots on, maybe 5'9".
I knew he was never really tall, but yeah, 5'7". Wow.
Yep. And, you know, unfortunately, I don't know Bill's age then. He could do so much in the fucking ring, dude. So much innovative shit that you guys would figure, and your educated fan would figure, and your ROH fan and Japanese fan would figure to be innovative. Well, fuck you, man. And I don't mean that literally. I mean that affectionately. Bill Dundee was doing that shit in the 70s and 80s. That's how we got over. You know what I mean? That's how he got over, you know? And a hustler. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't believe, you know? So Bill Dundee, I mean, look him up. Try to find some of his matches. It's going to be very hard to find young Bill Dundee because I can't even find the shit, but maybe you people that are better at YouTube and Google searches can find it. You know what I mean?
Well, I know the stuff of Bill's that I've seen that I was really entertained by when I saw it was his program with Hollywood John Tatum. Bill,
yeah.
You know, Bill was... what was Tatum's girl's name?
It might have been motherfucking, but it was either Tessa.
Tessa.
Yeah,
it was Tessa. Bill had Tatum, I think, handcuffed to the top rope, and he goes over and he lays like 5 kisses right on Tessa's face.
He always did that shit too. Whenever he had the book somewhere and there was a hot chick, he would end up kissing him on camera.
Oh god! And Tatum's over there practically crying.
It's probably half. If I know Bill, it's probably half a shoot. You know what I mean?
It might have been given Tatum's reaction. I don't know. But the expression on Tatum's face and just how enthusiastic Bill was to go over there and kiss the girl, you know?
Oh, he did that with every girl that was cute that was around as a manager or a valet or whatever the fuck. Except Precious. Jimmy Garvin wouldn't let that shit happen with his Precious, because Precious was his wife, you know. And I think, for the most part, surprisingly, the boys respected that. I don't ever remember one story of anybody getting out of line with her, or even saying shit about her, you know, which is really cool. You know, I'm sure Bill kissed Missy Hyatt. I'm sure he kissed Steve Austin's first wife. You know what I mean? He always found a way to do that. You know, just do it a little differently wherever it was, Texas or Tennessee. You know.
Yeah. I just remember laughing my ass off at Tatum's facial expressions.
Oh, dude, it was just amazing. So I want to go over some of the stuff. Brickhouse Brown was down there the first time. He's dead. He's gone. Rex King and Steve Dahl, who I've worked with 1,000 times, are both dead. They're gone. Chris Champion, dead, gone. I've worked with him 2,000 times, you know. Billy Joe Travis, one of the, you'll hear me talk about Billy. I'll always talk about Billy. I don't care if you guys get sick of me talking about Billy. That man needs to be honored. He was a fucking outstanding worker, you know. Here's the thing. So I started watching some of it because, you know, I do it like game film. I always have watched wrestling in a different light than most, you know. When you transition from fan to wrestler, you watch it with the appreciation of a fan, but you have to watch it in correlation to how it could relate into a business and how to make some of the things that you see yours, you know. Most things have been ripped off in the industry. They always used to make a joke about that. Buddy Roberts stole from Gorgeous George. Ric Flair stole from Buddy Rogers. You know what I mean? The Nature Boy, Nature Boys. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that being said, you know, I've always been very good at taking something and tweaking it so it's mine. Or taking something and then going, that was cool, let's take it in a whole other direction. Or blatantly just stealing it sometimes. You know what I mean? I ran through the Memphis territory doing Kurt Hennig's shit, Shawn Michaels shit, and other guys' shit. And they thought I was a fucking genius because nobody watched WWF at the time. You know what I mean? No, I didn't clearly say whatever, but if I got a compliment or a pop from somebody, I'd say, oh, thanks a lot. And I didn't say, yeah, I stole it from this guy, you know. I wanted to fucking get over it. The thing that got me over, what was the difference between me? A guy comes in who basically bullshitted, lied to get his foot in the door. How does he stay for 9 months? And that's what I want to talk about. And then, how long has this been going?
We're a little over 40 minutes, but we got a ton of time left.
Okay. Here's what happens. I've told you guys before how I handle my business. So, I watch this stuff, and I watch the guys that I looked up to then. I'm not going to say names because I don't want to bury nobody, and that's not my intention. But if I say certain things, Justin, like people will think I'm burying them, you know? No. And I'm not doing that. But I'm looking at these guys that I looked up to or maybe even man-crushed on and going, fuck, I was better than that then, you know? That's what I didn't do is I got caught in this I want to become so fucking good shit and learn shit that I was ready to be pushed. You know what I mean? Before I thought I was ready. I just never pitched it. I became complacent working every night and being that guy that somebody was coming into the territory that was going to work for WCW or NWA at the time, coming in here to get a couple weeks, get the ring rust off. Can you carry him for a couple of weeks? You know, that guy. They needed a big finish for the double ring battle royal, and they loved my backdrop from the inside out to finish it. You know what I mean? I became that guy. You know what I mean? And in the 6-mans at the towns, like, you just wouldn't believe. You know what was awesome down there, dude? There were towns at the time where I would say quarter to half of that town did not have electricity or running water still. And I'm going to say Arkansas rings a bell, but I'm sure we did the same things in Mississippi and Missouri in '88. And you can check on it, you know, if you doubt me. When wrestling came to that town once a year, into that county, the entire county would show up, and there'd be 4,000 or 5,000 people. It was deafening, and they really appreciated and loved us. You know what I mean? So if there was the big 6-man, I would always come up with something or add something to a finish to leave those people so happy that it was a great experience and they'd be back again next year. You know what I mean? When I was there. So, you know, that was a nice spot to be in, you know. Frank Morrell, the French Angel in wrestling, you can Google it if you want, was a tough, old, haggard son of a bitch. Do you know who Frank is when I bring him up, Justin?
I do.
So that motherfucker, I'm sure, yeah, man, he had cauliflower ears and the gig marks and all that shit. I mean, that was a tattered and torn guy that really, literally seen it all. Probably started wrestling in the 50s, maybe even the late 40s. He was the referee then, you know, and he had a big aversion to people from the North, and especially people from Chicago, who had a horrible reputation of being cocky even then and being the shits. You know what I mean? When I first got there, he would fuck with me so hard. Here I am, I told you, I don't know how to work heel, but I'm trying to bullshit my way through it, you know? Every time I would grab the tights or the hair or whatever, he would fucking catch me on purpose. Would not fucking let me cheat. You know what I mean? If I asked him for anything or when he talked to me or whatever, you know, just give me so much shit, you know? I don't think Frank ever told me I was the shits, but he may as well have, you know? I had the long hair, so when I would go to kick out a pins, dude, he would fuck with me and be kneeling on my hair to make the count on purpose.
Oh, my God.
You know? And it was so amazing to... Then to me, you know, that's a badge of honor, was to win that motherfucker over, you know? Mick Foley buried him in his book, and I called Mick about that, and it pissed me off. I think his first book. Because Mick is a smart guy, but he didn't get it, okay? When he came into Memphis, and by the way, he was the crew right before I was there, you know, before he went anywhere in the industry. Like I told you, anybody that's been anywhere in the industry went through Memphis. Foley, The Rock, Angle, and Steve Austin, you know. I read in his book that he told him, I think he told him he was the shits. Why would you want to do this? You're a fucking moron too. Because Mick has a degree, you know? Well, Frank wasn't fucking telling him that to be an asshole. Frank was an old asshole. He was telling him that for his own fucking good. He meant no fucking harm. He just meant there's not going to be a business much longer. You got a degree, get the fuck out of here and use that degree. You know what I mean? Now, Foley went the other way and the cards were in his favor, but also Foley had this no quit stuff. But the thing I'm trying to say is that I had a lot of respect for Frank, and my badge of honor was not pissing him off and getting over with him. Finally earning that guy's respect. You know what I mean? And I explained that to Foley because he never got to know Frank outside of that, because most people probably would have shut up. I didn't do that. I would look at this old timer and say, if they said that was the shits, rather than get mad at them, I would try to find out why it was the shits, and then improve on it, you know, without being a fucking mark. You know, today there's a couple of guys that work here and a couple of guys that I'm training that the way they try to talk to me, they know they're fucking annoying the ever-loving fucking piss out of me. Don't hit me up on Saturday when I got to put all these fucking matches together after training a bunch of motherfuckers to get this building ready, and you know, it's insane. The work I do on one Saturday is probably worth 2.5 to 3 days work for a normal person. You know, I got half my fucking faculties left physically and mentally, so it takes a lot out of me, as you know. But they want to fucking try to fucking get over with me then. Come at me like a mark, and it's like, don't do that. I didn't do that. I didn't fight Frank. I didn't thank Frank for telling me I was the shits. I would say I would bide my time and watch and wait for my spot and feel and use my people smarts and go, you said I was the shits. Probably was if you said it. Can you tell me why so I could learn from it? Well, then these motherfuckers are ready to talk, even the ones that hate you. You know what I mean? Jerry the King Lawler, you know? Jerry had a fucking boner for me from my first television down there and did everything he could to get me shit canned. And I did everything I could on the other end to try to stay there. And I was just too fucking good to get the fuck rid of. You couldn't find anybody then to fill the spot that I had as far as the fact that I could work. How did I learn how to work? I fucking crash coursed it, man. First guy to take me under his wing was a junkyard dog, you know, before he left the territory. Then what happens is I hook up with Robert Fuller. Well, me and Rob had this thing going that I'll go into detail someday, but Robert Fuller, check the math on this. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Roy Lee Welsh, Robert Fuller's grandfather, took wrestling out of the carnivals and circus and brought it to the fucking arena. There's so much rich history there in the Fullers and the brains that they had. Robert was a great worker, but he was an even better booker. You know, his ideas were outstanding. And he was responsible for a lot of things that Dusty took credit for with WCW, as did Ric Flair, you know. Second was Robert Fuller, and the way that went was, you know, we split the gas, we split the room, we spent every minute of every day together for 90 fucking days. You couldn't even fuck somebody without Rob being over there fucking 6 feet away. I've gotten those stories before. Everything we did, eat, sleep, work out together. The only thing we didn't do together was bathe. You know what I mean? I learned how to pick Robert's brain without being a mark. I learned how to ask Robert, tell me about your dad. Tell me about your grandfather. Tell me about your brother. See what I'm saying? While we're driving, and, you know, this fucking guy says to me after the first week, I'm fucking this many years in the business, son, and I can't believe you got me watching your fucking matches. You know what I mean? And he would tell me what to do, and I would fucking ask him humility, but not a coward and not a fucking mark, because nobody wants to ass kisser, nobody wants to be a pain in the ass. Do you know what I'm saying? Same bullshit happened. Then I met Handsome Jimmy, and I got crash course spending 3 months at a time, 24/7 with these fucking guys. I wanted to hear what they had to say. I knew I had to learn the parameters of my industry. I knew it wasn't black and white TV anymore, but how can I take that and make it prominent today? How can I take from the 1950s and come here to 1988 and use it and pop people because they'd never seen it before, you know? And Rob would fucking, he was so great. Then I stopped asking him to watch my matches, and he would say, son, I'm watching your matches because I'm fucking entertained, you know? He goes, yeah, so much heat out there tonight, I wanted to smash your fucking face in. You know what I mean? One of the greatest things was one night, Lawler was supposed to show up to work Boogie, and he had some personal problems, and he did Memphis TV that morning, but couldn't make it to Nashville. So they did the old thing by applause. Which one of these asshole heels do you want to see work Jimmy in the main event? We're sorry for any fucking bullshit card subject to change, you know? We had guys down there, including Rob, you know? Guys that they known for years, dude. Guys that were way bigger than me, you know? Guys that had heat, guys that had TV time, guys that they put money into getting over. Nashville was a good crowd, but it was a rough crowd. It was half like Memphis, where they were starting to get educated, but, you know, if something was bullshit, they just wouldn't buy it. They started to see through bullshit, you know? Well, man, they fucking did it 3 times because they couldn't believe they put their hand over my head. And here's Frank Morrell, who I told you, he might have, I don't think he even said, you are the shits. He'd say, well, that was the fucking shits. You know what I mean? When I was out there, he looks at all the guys, all the heels, the veterans, and he could talk this way to them because he was fucking Frank, you know? He's 2 generations ahead of even Rob, probably. He probably worked with Rob's grandfather, now that I think about it. But anyway, he said, the fucking kid that does the job in the opener has the most fucking heat. You know what I mean? I take that as a badge of honor, and that's my thing, you know?
Oh, hell yeah.
That's what I try to offer to the industry, you know? That's when I know for fucking sure I'm good at this, you know? So, how much time we got?
Oh, we got like probably about 15 minutes before we have to wrap it up. We're about 55 minutes in.
Is this shit worth the shit to you, what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely. I love the Memphis stories.
I think that people do because, like I said, I've heard in a couple instances and I've seen some things online where they want people like Mike Tenay to talk about the history of these territories and stuff in this podcast. Well, good, you know. God bless Mike. Mike is a nice guy and he's a plethora of knowledge, you know. Historically, he's going to find it if he doesn't know it. But Mike wasn't there. I was there. I worked with the guys he's going to mention that came from these territories, from Alabama, from Florida, from Dallas, from Kentucky, you know what I mean, from Memphis, Bruiser, you know what I mean? I worked with these guys. I was trained by Mr. Electricity Steve Regal, the son-in-law of Wilbur Snyder, who was a big baby face for Bruiser, for a long time, and shit like that. I mean, so anyway, I think hearing it from somebody like me gives it more validity, legitimacy.
Yeah, definitely.
It's more than just like factotum shit, So anyway, I'm watching this stuff in 1991, and we'll probably do more on Memphis because there's just so much to do, I'm watching the TV and I'm watching what they're trying to do. So, and this is the truth too, man. Forever and a day, every Sunday night, I will call Jerry Jarrett at 9. He would do his shit on Sunday after, and he was a fucking guy. He'd go to church, he'd do whatever with the family on Sunday, and then he'd have dinner, and then after that shit, he would maybe watch National Geographic shit, and then he would go, or Marlon Perkins, that animal show, Animal Kingdom. Yeah. Then he'd go into the office and, get his shit together for the week, And I would call him at 9 p.m. every Sunday. We talked for years every Sunday. Now, the Jarretts had such a reputation of fucking you. You know what I mean? I learned when I was there, I was like, well, if Jerry's such a prick, why this? You know what I mean? Eddie Marlin died last year, maybe 2 years ago. And a friend of mine, and he is a friend, I'm not burying this guy, we'll never bury this guy, I never mention his name, because I have so much respect and love for the guy. He said, fuck Eddie, after his death. And I'm like, I ain't going to say that, man. I got along with the guy, But I knew how to look at these people in a different light than just talent. Understand why they did what they did, why they had to do what they did. You know what I mean? So Jerry starts telling me at the time, and this was when, I probably shouldn't say names either, they were only running 3 times a week, and they were paying guys $30 a night, dude, to go down there. And these towns were not in the order that they were in. You know what I mean? He's like, we're paying guys $30 a night, Randy. We're not even working every night anymore. And I'm like, come on, Jerry. Don't blow that smoke up my ass, Not like that. I would never talk to Jerry like that then, And, well, sure as shit, it was true, And I was just trying to figure out, it's always bothered me why. Now, in 1991, I think it was my last time in there, and it felt fast and hard. You know what I mean? I knew I was down there beginning of 91, and I was guaranteed $350 a week, which wasn't bad for any job, But to do something that you love as a 22-year-old kid, that was fucking great, Especially because I would stay with friends in Memphis and Nashville, so I had no rent, So anyway, it got bad fast, and I'm trying to think about, it's always bothered me why. Now, if that territory had been running still every night, I probably wouldn't have gotten Patrice pregnant and gotten married. Which occurs to me, But I see it started with this. Number one, these old timers did not want to pass the torch whatsoever. They didn't want to pass the torch. And it had always kind of been that way, and I could see that's where the heat would come from, was that if you weren't Jarrett and you weren't Lawler and you weren't Dundee, you had one function, and that was to get those 3 over. One of the 3 or all of the 3. You know what I mean? When they were done with you, gonzo. But that's okay because it was a launching pad for a lot of people. I liked it. I will happily admit that was my most favorite business time in my life was running them fucking roads 3,000 miles a week and fucking working 8 times a week, for 6 weeks and then getting a Sunday off. That was the fucking best. You know what I mean? So happy, man. Hard? Goddamn right. A lot of people I could name from Chicago couldn't handle that shit, and I know for a fact. But that's a story for another time when I'm in a worse mood. So I think what's up is the same thing happened with the business end. Watching, Here's Eddie Marlin in 91. I think he was 70 years old. Eddie was a one-man fucking wrecking crew. Eddie was Jerry Jarrett's father-in-law and Jeff's grandfather. Wait, Jeff's grandfather? Yeah.
Yeah, if he was Jerry's father-in-law, he would have been Jeff's grandfather.
Yeah, or maybe a step.
Something like, I don't know.
I don't remember either. Fucking Eddie and Jeff were tight. And Eddie was a prick, but he had to be a prick. He's the guy. He was the general fucking manager, you know. Book the town. Promote the town. There was no internet. Nobody had a computer then. You know what I mean? He would have to handle the dropping off of the tickets. He would have to handle picking up of the tickets. He would have to handle finding the places to put the tickets. He would take the tickets, sell the popcorn, sell the weenies and the sodas. You know what I'm saying? Give us our finishes. You know what I mean? Make up the undercard while he was there. You know what I'm saying? Give every asshole a draw off their pay if they needed it. You know, everything. So I'm watching Eddie. I'm like, man, no wonder. You know, Jerry was getting on it in years too. So I almost think sometimes that if they would have groomed a younger generation to do business, they would have got some more time out of that territory. And also the fact that Jerry Lawler said for years, WWE's fake, and he went to work for WWE. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's a damn shame, you know. But that being said, I'm going to go back to what I'm trying to get to and why we're here. I love Jim Cornette as a human being. I love his wife as a human being. I would never, ever be inappropriate with either of them. But Jim is convinced that it's over, it's done, why bother with wrestling, right? Isn't that pretty much his general consensus?
Pretty much. I
don't think so, you know?
No.
I don't think so, and if I did, if I thought so, I wouldn't keep working as hard as I am trying to build this fucking thing. And
I think the industry, like anything else, it goes in waves. It has its peaks and its valleys.
Well,
I think right now we're just in we're in one of the most profound valleys we've ever been in.
Well, is Vince in a valley? You know, what's his stock value? You know?
Not sure what the stock is. I know viewership is down because of COVID, and God bless them. They're trying to adapt. They're, trying to make do with what they have.
Well, he is optimizing. Viewership's been down for a long time. Live attendance is down, but I know they're making money. That stock value is worth a shit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I know there's nobody talking about Fox or USA of dumping anytime soon. You know what I mean? So there's still value there. You learned how to optimize. Jerry Jarrett never really learned how to optimize either. That's the other thing. You know what I mean? And I think that's because they were used to business being so good for so long, Yeah. There's probably thousands of Monday nights they oversold that building and had to turn people away. Can you believe that on Monday fucking night for pro wrestling?
That's insane.
But today we have so many other things at our fingertips. If we could just do them and understand them. You said you're 34 and you have a hard time with technology.
I have a hard time keeping up.
I'm 55, can you imagine? You know what I mean? And I'm uneducated, But, Ian, I'm going to call you out. You brought it up yourself, Ian Solek, who's a patron, and he's been a great friend to the company. You want to help me, and I believe that you're a smart kid. I really do, and you know that. I've told you that. I've also told you that I respect the fact of the way you think, and I love when young people like you and these guys give a rat's ass about history, heritage, tradition. You know what I mean? Not be stuck in it, because I'm certainly not stuck in it. Are our wrestlers stuck in that shit? When you watch Saturday Night, these guys just fucking doing the 1950s sit in the whole shit?
No.
That's what I'm saying. So, Ian, please find out for me about Rumble.com. Rumble. I do know that 6 years ago, it never took off then. It's still a new tech company, or newer tech company. They wanted to compete with with YouTube, to carry content because they had a way of paying up to 10 times more than YouTube does to content providers or creators, Rumble.com, Ian, you son of a gun. I know the way you look at things, you can explain it to me so I can understand it. I spent a whole day yesterday, dude, probably 10 hours off and on, trying to understand and figure out how Rumble would work for us. I do know that you can get it, on your TV, and it's like a Rumble channel. The thing that caught my attention was, I follow people on Twitter, you know. When I go to Dinesh Souza, you know who that is?
No.
Dinesh Souza, he wrote, I'm gonna go into his fucking shit. You guys know who Dinesh Souza is. I know you do, Ian, because you're fucking sharp. You know everything with fucking the current climate, you know. And you know Dan Bongino.
No.
Okay. These guys, Bongino, for example, I'm not going to say a pundit, but he's a news or media guy. Used to work for the Secret Service and shit. So he's got a lot of, and law enforcement, lifetime in law enforcement. I think FBI and shit too. But anyway, these guys host their podcasts and things on rumble.com. So that being said, there is another degree of follower there or potential customer above 18 to 24-year-olds, because, you know, those guys are very popular guys, and they have been since 2016 or whatever. If it's even this, if it's even providing separate content on Rumble, and I'm not saying instead of, I'm saying in addition to the things that we do now, you know what I mean? I know that they come up with a real creative way to create revenue to try to help startups like us get traction, create revenue. And I do like their attitude, you know, where I don't like YouTube ever since Google bought it, because they don't give a rat's ass about the content provider so much. And Rumble breaks it down real nice about how, just like in the country, really, man, your small businesses, your small creators are the backbone. You know what I mean? If you added up all the small guys' views and subscribers, it's going to be more than your giants. You know what I'm saying? So, Ian, please, if you could do that, that's what I could really use at the moment. I'm not poo-pooing any other ideas, but my brain works where I can't hear those ideas until my brain clears out some of it. The cup's too full upstairs, you understand? And if we put any more in there, I'll either explode, aneurysm, stroke, but the bottom line is I have to get these other things out of my system first. Tom Ertel, if you are still subscribing, your son hit me up too. Your son is a great brain, a business mind, and motherfucking masters in business. Please bring that up to him too. And about getting corporate sponsors, tech sponsors for the YouTube. It's easier to garner those than it is during Corona to get your local sponsors. You know what I mean? A $25 a month sponsor here is very appreciated, but it doesn't go very far because his name's not getting in front of anybody when this Corona shit is scaring us for live attendance. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I was watching another thing where, for the first time, I don't usually do it, but I watched I wish I would have wrote it down because I thought it would come back up. And it will, but it didn't come up soon enough. There's this little news gimmick that they're sponsored. They got a sponsor with that, what's that shit? It's a phone thing. It's a phone service. Patriots?
Beats me.
It's a phone provider. It's a goddamn cellular service, you know? I'll tell you the name of it another time. If I said the name, you guys will understand. But anyway, they've got 40,000. They've got the same exact fucking followers that we do, and they have enough money to pay their 2 or 3 people and travel to the Trump rallies and cover them live from that sponsor. And it's good for everybody, you know? And I'm like, man, we could do that. We have the same traction. You know what I mean? So, Tom Ertel, that's what I need to hit your boy up for, is to think a little bigger, because I really think he's the guy to help us get on that. I ain't asking for nothing for free either. When it comes to sponsorship, advertising, all that bullshit, it's always great to be like with these guys, is a strategic partner. Get a percentage, you know what I mean, for selling, you know?
No, I think we touched on a lot of really good stuff here.
Cool. You think so or no?
Yeah. Like I said, I love the Memphis stories. I think a lot of people like the Memphis stories because Memphis is one of those things where every wrestling.
Did you see that?
Did you make it in?
I made the fucking basket for once. Sorry. Sorry.
Hey, I get excited
Go
when
ahead.
that happens.
Go ahead. I never make it.
But, you know, I think every wrestling fan knows that Memphis was a place of significance, but they don't really know anything about it because WWE has never released any DVDs on it, no documentaries. It's so hard to find, you know, matches. You pretty much have to scour YouTube.
And it's not there. You know, it's not fucking there, man. Yeah. Some of it, bits and pieces, you know. It's usually a fan or the son or grandson of a fan that found some VHS tapes and tried to convert them, you know. Yeah. Let me just say this. Steve Regal was down there in the late 70s. I want to say 77. Yeah, probably 77. He was making $850 a week wrestling in the openers like I was.
Hey, and in 77, $850 a week, holy shit.
Fuck yeah, you know.
That was a living. That was definitely a living.
That was a good living. That was the opener, you know. Handsome Jimmy, the Valiant Brothers, Handsome Jimmy, Luscious Johnny. In the 70s, I want to say 74, 75, for at least a year, maybe 2 years, they main evented as the top heel tag team in Memphis at the Mid-South on Monday nights. In the early 70s, Justin, their guarantee was $5,000 a week for the 2 shots.
Holy shit.
You know? So, I mean, fuck.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, I think of Memphis the way, do you know who Robert Johnson is? The blues
I know the
player?
name. I don't.
See,
Blues Traveler?
No, the blues guitar player. Kind of the
I know the
godfather
name.
of the blues. Yeah.
I know the name.
But you just proved my point. You know the name, but you really know anything about him. Not a lot of people do. Everybody knows he was a revolutionary when it came to blues guitar, but nobody knows how he got that way. In fact, there's a legend that says the only reason he got so good was because he sold his soul to the devil.
Oh, you son of a bitch. There is a Ozzy and Jack went down there to his town and talked to the guy, found the guy that, I forget his name, man. Chicken something.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. On that Ozzy and Jack's, whatever the fuck, where they tour the world.
Road trip, yeah.
They cover that. They find a guy that used to played with him. 2 guys that played with him. 1 guy that used to make harmonicas for him, custom. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to see that.
I have.
Even Gianna, at 18 years old, was my daughter, was way into that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's fascinating, and that's how I see Memphis.
Everybody
knows Robert Johnson was a phenomenal guitar player, a phenomenal musician, but nobody knows why he was that way, how he got to be that way, and that's how I see Memphis. Everybody knows it was a significant place.
Yeah.
Nobody really understands or knows the backstory to why it was so significant.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but old Robert that you're talking about would also be considered a godfather of rock and fucking roll, too.
Well, absolutely.
You know?
Because rock and roll wouldn't be around if it wasn't for the blues.
I've seen another thing. I don't remember if it was American Pickers or that Ozzy and Jack show where they used to work with what they had. And they would make tremendous, awesome musical instruments out of wooden and metal cigar boxes with 3 fucking strings and a goddamn branch from a peach tree. Mm-hmm. And now this other asshole makes a beautiful living doing that.
Yep.
And he makes them only for individuals by order, and he electrified them.
Very nice.
And you should hear these fucking things.
I'm sure they sound fantastic.
And I think to myself, look, how do you get the sound out of something like that with 3 fucking strings on it? Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. So anyway,
I just wanted to sell for you. That's amazing.
No, definitely. I gotta look at that episode of Ozzy and Jack. But anyway, we'll take it home for this week. Thank you guys again for listening.
Yes.
Well, like Rand said, we'll do more on Memphis. I know I want to hear more about Memphis down the road.
You could have stopped talking about Memphis, you know, really. And then we'll get into Puerto Rico, the history of wrestling in Puerto Rico. You know what blows my mind? Luke Williams knows every fucking thing. Savio Vega, every fucking thing. They don't even know. Luke is too young to know who used to work for and how wrestling started on the island too, which is way rich in history, you know.
Yeah, we'll have to cover that sometime.
Yeah.
But remember, this Saturday, yes, we are running on Halloween, and don't forget we've got sometime next month we got our monthly Friday night studio taping. But don't forget we've got Challenge Pro Wrestling on YouTube now. It's our new webisode series, should we call it?
whatever you want to
Whatever
come
you
up
wanna
with.
say.
I don't know what you kids call things these days.
That's
All I
gonna-
know is this: no cap and fuck me up, fam.
Yep, that's going to be our. It's going to kind of be a showcase of what we offer you guys.
And the
Both
matches, you gotta see these fucking guys, the roster, you know.
free preview of the podcast on there too.
Yeah.
So again, share it around when you see it posted. Share it around. Share all of our content. Let people listen to this podcast to show them why they should sign up for Patreon.
And lastly, when you get to the fork in the road, take it.